So the Warhammer 40k app has received an upgrade. Let's take a look at the new command bunker feature, something that's looking like a very nice way to access army rules and tailored to your list. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where in amongst all the balanced data slate changes, there was a fairly interesting update to the Warhammer 40k app. Games Workshop announced 2 new features for it, including something called the Command Bunker and a favourite section for the reference section, and genuinely I feel like both of these actually improve its functionality significantly, though admittedly the Command Bunker does look like it's going to be more useful if you're a paid subscriber. The Warhammer 40k app for 10th edition I think has been the most successful one that Games Workshop's rolled out so far in terms of actual ease of use and accessing rules, perhaps partly due to the fact that 10th edition seems to have been built where access of rules, stratagems and detachment things is relatively easy, or at least easier to structure within an app form compared with what 9th edition and before were. Initially it came out as a completely free offering, though since then I feel like it's both been getting kind of better and also kind of worse at the same time. Some genuine improvements to functionality, but also paired with being more likely to push you towards spending money with Games Workshop. The reference section I do think is nice. It's very good to be able to search individual rules quite easily, and it's quite nice for accessing the core rules. Unfortunately though, this will decline in functionality as time goes on and more codexes come out, and that means that each army in turn will have its content locked out, and if you want to access it again then it'll be behind a paywall. I guess the faction-specific section of this will be kind of useless by the end of 10th edition, once every army has a codex, unless you've got the specific ones for your army. At the moment though, for accessing the indexes, I think it genuinely is quite good. The other side of it is the Army Builder Battleforge sort of section, where you can put together army lists, equip units and pay points for them. I feel like the interface is nice enough, and they improved it a little bit previously, allowing a link to view datasheets from each unit that you add. In general, this one was pretty well received. Lots of new players were using it at the start of 10th edition, though then they locked it down so that without a Warhammer Plus subscription, you can't get multiple army lists. It still means that you can use it to build individual armies, but if you wanted to save them for later dates or go back to tweak old ones that you might have not come back to for a while, then you need a sub for that. To improve on this over the past couple of days though, they've added 2 new features. I'd say the main one is the Command Bunker section to access the rules that you've put together in your army. I genuinely think that that's quite good fun. And also there's now a favourite section for the reference pages, which I think is interesting but maybe not quite as impactful, though I think it will definitely help out some people. If they're not there for you at the moment, then it might be that you need to update your app. It does seem to have gone live already from me experimenting with it. Bear in mind that some of the updates can have some negative consequences, like locking codexes that you previously had access to the index of. I feel like some people have tried to hang on to those for a bit longer. Taking a look at the new Command Bunker feature though, the way that you access it is in the Army List building section in the Battleforge, and it basically is a very focused section that tries to just give you the rules that are relevant to your army and nothing else. I think that makes it really quite strong for just handy in-game access, where you're not wading through loads of other contents to find the rules that you actually need to see. I feel like that will be an interesting improvement for plenty of people out there. That's one of the criticisms of the app, was that maybe it just wasn't quite as fast as using things like codex data cards or datasheet cards that you could have as a bit more tactile things on the table. I feel like it does its role quite well from what I've seen so far, and you basically access it on this button on the top right next to the options section of your army list, a little sort of skull castle sort of icon. If you click on that with my very brief 3-unit example Death Guard army list, you get a list of collapsible sections for the different things that are going to be relevant to your army. First up, you get each of the datasheets in order, so squads like your Blight Lord Terminators, Death Guard Hellbrutes and Plague Marines here. If your army has any enhancements, then that appears as a section under the datasheets, but isn't visible if you don't. And then following that, there's all the stratagems that the army has access to, both the standard ones for the detachment and also the core ones as well. Perhaps one of my one criticisms might be that the core stratagems perhaps aren't quite as big a deal to have mixed in with the detachment-specific ones. Maybe they could have been under their own menu next to the detachment ones nearby. Then at the bottom there's the Army Core rule and the Detachment rule. So basically this thing is pretty much a codex in microcosm. It's got all the datasheets that you're actually playing with and none of the ones that you don't. Then all the stratagems that you've got access to and the army rules that back them up. If you click into the menus, then here you can see the datasheets for the Blight Lord Terminators. The weapons are under collapsible menus, and it looks like it only gives you results for the weapons that your squads are actually equipped with. I think it's just got a bit of a better feel to it than the other ways they've tried to deliver these before. A bit more of a feeling of a data card that doesn't take too much scrolling to access the rules for, perhaps keeping those collapsible menus down to a bit more of a manageable level. I'll briefly talk about the second thing that they've implemented as well, which is the favorite section. If you go to the reference section of the app, this is now divided in two sections at the top, either all or favorites. Just about every rule in the regular reference section now has the three dots option sign beside it and allows you to star it as a favorite, and then it gets added to that section, seemingly popping up in a similar sort of order with datasheets and then detachment rules and then enhancements. It looks like you're quite free to be able to add quite a lot of different things to this, not just detachment rules or individual datasheets, but you can also pin most of the things from the core rules or even expanded documents like bits of the balanced data slate if you really want to. I feel like it's the sort of thing that a lot of people might not get that much use out of, but I guess could be proactive if you find yourself looking up one rule over and over again. Maybe could just add it to the favorite section for quick access, alongside any others that you might find yourself using more than normal. Overall, as improvements to the app go, I feel like the command bunker is genuinely a pretty great addition. Certainly helps to bat against the criticism of the rules being a little bit fiddly to access. I could easily see myself having that as basically my army list rules reference on the table and then just checking bits of it as needed. For weaknesses and criticisms of it though, it is a bit of a shame that it's only really good for your army. It'd be very cool if, say, you would be able to access the contents of your opponent's command bunker while you're playing a game. You would have a quick nose about useful things from their unit profiles without having to literally ask them every single time, or check the exact wording of a stratagem to see whether or not it could impact your tactics, or whether it's being played right even. Games Workshop does tend to keep rules under lock and key unless you've paid for them though, so maybe that's unlikely. Perhaps they could do something like allowing sharing for a limited time only. Otherwise, for the datasheets in the command bunker, it might have been kind of nice to pair the enhancements with the actual bearer. They are listed completely separately, which maybe is just a little bit more awkward. Means you might need to flick back to the main army list creation page to see exactly who's got what. I think realistically for most people though, probably the biggest downside of this thing is the subscription cost. If you don't have Warhammer Plus, you will be limited to just using this with that one army list that you can use through that. I feel like even if this is really quite a good list building and rules access service, if you're not using things from the other Warhammer Plus offerings like the Warhammer TV things, it's just quite a lot to ask for £5 or $6 a month, particularly when that's a cost on top of codexes and things. As ever, when talking about the 40k app, I feel like that subscription cost would be far more palatable if it also came with the full access to the codex rules as well. But Games Workshop does quite like selling their expensive books, so maybe that's unlikely. I feel like for people who already have a subscription to that, this could be genuinely pretty interesting though, and could be handy if you just have one army list that you use regularly that you could have stored on there. Otherwise, it's competing against the usual suspects like Battlescribe, New Recruit, or Warhapedia. Battlescribe and New Recruit doing army list building and rules access, Warhapedia just being for rules. Let me know what you think about the new update though. Is this something that you'd actually see yourself using? I look forward to hearing any of your thoughts, either positive or negative. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, or certainly keep the regular 40k videos coming. I do tend to post new ones just about every day. Finally, if you have been enjoying the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and you can find that linked in the video description if you'd like to help support. Channel patrons do get a few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.